Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm Laura Blackwell, tonight's host. My co-host, Marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour over 2 years ago to help everybody stay connected. Nearly 3 years ago now, you're right. By telling each other stories, just like we're around a little campfire. And Story Hour is now made possible by an SFWA Givers Grant, which we are very grateful for. Welcome back to those of you returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As always, we have 2 writers reading for favored nonprofits. Tonight's readers are Nadia Bulkin and Cassandra Khaw. If you can, please consider donating to either or both of tonight's nonprofits, Razom for Ukraine and Réseau Secours Animal, or Animal Rescue Network. Nadia Bulkin is reading for Razom for Ukraine. Razom for Ukraine, Razom means together in Ukrainian, and so it serves as a constant reminder of the community that it takes to create, build, and do. Razom creates spaces where people meet, partner, and work together to unlock the potential of Ukraine. Projects include emergency response, grants to volunteer organizations, toy drives, and many more of the things that make life livable, which is especially important in Ukraine right now. It operates in Ukraine as Razom для Ukrainy. Please forgive my attempt at pronouncing a language I do not speak. And Razom collaborates with organizations and individuals to deliver the highest impact. You can learn more at razomforukraine.org. We will, as always, drop the URLs in the chat and Zoom and Facebook so that you can look them up. Cassandra Khaw is reading for Réseau Secours Animal, or the Animal Rescue Network. This is a no-kill animal shelter in Montreal that is 100% volunteer run. Not only can you adopt, volunteer, or simply donate, you can learn about the cats there who are not adoptable due to health problems and sponsor their care. There are really some very moving animal stories at the website, which is, and I don't speak French either, réseausecouranimal.org. If you are here on Zoom, please feel free to leave your camera on. It can be really nice for our readers to see your faces, especially if they're doing something really charming or really spooky. Chime in on the text chat if you like. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you. We're really glad to have you, but please forgive us if we don't see your messages right away. And our first reader tonight is Nadia Bulkin. Nadia Bulkin is the author of the short story collection She Said Destroy that came out from Word Horde in 2017. She has been nominated for the Shirley Jackson Award 5 times, and that's one of my favorite awards. She grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia with her Javanese father and American mother before relocating to Lincoln, Nebraska. She has 2 political science degrees and lives in Washington, D.C. Nadia, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We are delighted. I'm so glad I worked up the nerve to ask.
Oh, I'm so scary, as you know.
5 Shirley Jackson nominations. So
Hey,
what
number 1, so don't be too.
It'll happen. So what do you have for us tonight?
So tonight I'm going to be reading from this anthology that I was in called Mother. And I would, so it's from, let's see, it's from Weird Little Worlds, and it is edited by Christy Noble and Willow Becker, and it's got lots of great stories, and they're all divided by categories of like things that mothers do, so I thought that was really cool. Mine is on this, I would say, on the spookier side, and I first want to share the amazing illustration for my story. I'm going to hold it up. Hopefully you guys can see.
Oh, that is creepy.
It's creepy, right?
Is it misty on the page?
Yeah,
Or
it's
is
kind
that
of
Zoom
misty. It's
artifact?
kind of misty. It's kind of cloudy. You'll see. So the story is called, I'll just go for it. It's called Worry Dolly. The first time Jenna remembered seeing the stranger, the woman who was not her mother, she was in the backyard. She was kicking herself higher and higher on the swing set, waving at her mother inside the house as she flew by. And then she noticed something strange. When she was at the back peak of the swing, her mother was in the kitchen. When she was at the front peak of the swing, her mother was in the guest bedroom. Her mother's apparent speed zooming back and forth across the house wasn't the only strange thing. Whenever she was in the kitchen, her mother was smiling, happy, bright-eyed, and waving back. But when she got to the guest bedroom, it was like she sank beneath a dark cloud. She was frowning, almost pouting, sunken eyes glaring as if to set the world on fire, hair a mess. Jenna was afraid to go into the guest bedroom for weeks after that. When her mother asked her to take linens to the room in preparation for a visit by one of her father's friends, Jenna shook her head no. "Mama," she said, "I'm scared." "Here," her mother said, "take Worry Dolly." And her mother presented to her a doll, the size of a bread loaf, with a glass-eyed porcelain head and a soft cloth body. "Squeeze her if you're scared, shake her if you're nervous, you can even pull her hair. She'll keep you calm." Jenna stacked the doll on top of the linens and very carefully crept to the guest bedroom, making sure Worry Dolly entered the space first. There was no one in there, not the stranger or anyone else. She placed the linens on the bed, grabbed Worry Dolly in triumph, and nearly ran into her mother rushing out the door. For a second, only a second in the afternoon shadow, she thought that the stranger was back and squeezed Worry Dolly like her mother told her to. "Good job, baby," her mother said. Only after dark, while Jenna was lying in bed trying to sleep, did she wonder why her mother had taken her hair down inside the guest bedroom. Eventually, Jenna realized the stranger was not bound to the guest bedroom. The stranger might sit at her father's seat at the dining table in the middle of the night, might loiter at the end of the driveway in the rain, as if waiting for the mail. The stranger had her mother's height, her face, her bone structure, but the pale depletion of the stranger's face, the bedraggled half-deadness of her expression, and her faint odor of mildew instead of rose meant Jenna never mistook the two. The stranger waited for them in mall parking lots, a hunched column of barren gloom. She dragged behind them at the park like a trail of mud. She even followed them on vacation, like the summer they spent at Grandpa Walker's huge house in Port Eliza, which Jenna would have preferred to spend back home with the popular girls that she wanted to keep as her friends. Jenna was upstairs, refusing to go to the beach, when she heard what sounded like her mother's voice call her from the first floor. "Jenna!" "I said I'm not going," she yelled back. She could already predict what her mother was going to say. "Bring Worry Dolly." It was her answer to everything, which meant she had to take Worry Dolly everywhere, like she was a little kid. When Jenna pointed out that she was angry, not worried, her mother just knelt down and whispered that Worry Dolly could be an anger dolly, too. "Jenna!" It was a tone of voice she couldn't say no to. Not if she didn't want to hear about it from her father. So she grabbed Worry Dolly off the bed and started stomping down the hallway toward the stairs, eager to show her mother just how unfixably angry she was. And that was when one of the white bedroom doors opened and someone cold and fragrant pulled her in. It was her mother. She looked, for once, mildly distressed. Jenna frowned. "I thought you were downstairs." "Shush," her mother said. And the realization flooded down Jenna's legs like adrenaline. The stranger knew her name. "Stay here. Keep the door closed. While she waited for her mother to return to beat the unstranger to death, Jenna ran her fingers through the mats and Worry Dolly's hair. She was not careful with the thing. She pitied it sometimes. She had thrown it, stomped on it, dug her nails into its stomach, and tried to reach its stuffing. "I'm sorry," she whispered to it, then rocked it back and forth so it could blink its acceptance of her apology, so she could imagine it reassuring her. "It's okay," she heard Worry Dolly say. "Hurt me." Jenna had been afraid that the unstranger would follow her to college, watch over her at parties, sit next to her in class, scare her roommates, but she didn't. Her college years were populated entirely by the corporeal and the living. Jenna never even caught sight of Chris McLaren, the famous suicide victim of room 501. The unstranger stayed home. She had hoped to spend Thanksgiving during her senior year with her pre-med boyfriend. Her father called him Sweater Vest, a nickname that had stuck, but he had bailed at the last minute, saying it was too soon. Her friend Cassidy suggested that he might have an old girlfriend back home he wanted to see instead. Her friend Sloan said he was just a slow mover. Jenna was afraid that Sweater Vest had seen too many of her bad moods. Too stormy even for Worry Dolly to handle. The poor thing was covered in puncture wounds and ink stains by then. She was even missing an eye. "Goodness, Jenna," her mother said when Jenna gave her the doll to repair. "You still carry that thing around?" her father said, raising his eyebrows. On her final night at home, she woke up in her childhood bedroom to find the door ajar. A hint of hallway light revealed the barely there outline of a figure with wild hair standing in the room against her Eiffel Tower poster, watching her. "Mom?" she mumbled, but the figure said nothing. She wondered if her mother had started sleepwalking. All the new medication she was on, God knew what side effects they might have, until the figure with her mother's shape took a big, deliberate seeming step toward her, hands curled as if to catch, to grab, to choke. "Mom," Jenna hissed, though she was too afraid to turn on the lamp. "Stop." As if electroshocked, the figure slid back toward the wall and fell straight to the floor, like a sheet falling from a line. Jenna threw back the sheets, thinking of aneurysms and strokes and the hardness of the uncarpeted floor, but only got as far as kicking her feet out of bed before the figure scurried on all fours out of the room. Jenna had to grab stitched up Worry Dolly before giving chase. She was not surprised, after all these years, to find the hallway empty. She was not surprised to push open the door to her parents' bedroom and find her mother asleep. Like Jenna, she was a light sleeper. Soon she was squinting, propping herself up on her elbow. "What is it?" she murmured, not wanting to wake up Jenna's father. "Are you okay?" Jenna whispered. "Of course." Her mother's head fell limply back to the pillow. "Why wouldn't I be?" The unstranger was not invited to Jenna's wedding. She attended anyway, wearing a long, fusty dress of funereal black. She paced back and forth behind the pews while Jenna and Sweater Vest said their vows. She lingered by the punch bowl during the reception. "Mom," Jenna said, because on the single most important day of her life, as per her wedding planner, she had the right to ask anything. "Who is that?" Her mother looked across the lawn at the disheveled woman who wore her face. She showed no hint of alarm, possibly because she'd had 2 drinks. The only sound she made at first was, and then, "I used to have a Worry Dolly too, you know." "Oh?" Jenna's Worry Dolly had not been battered nearly as badly during her long engagement to Sweater Vest. Not because she was any less worried, because her nerves had been so prickly, so wound up, that all she could do to Worry Dolly was squeeze. "Yes, a present from my mother." Her mother smiled and forced herself to turn away from the unstranger. Did I ever tell you about the summer your father and I lived in Port Eliza? We were engaged. He was wrapping up his obligations to the Navy so he could take a job with the family business, and I was working as a receptionist. I almost left him. I came very close. Her mother did not say why. Jenna knew by then that her mother would never say why. One day, I just snapped. I'd had it. I left the office during my lunch break and took the train to see my mother back in Ashland. I told her, I know that everyone loves him. I know he's from a good family, but I don't know if I meant to be a Walker wife, because I've seen his brother's wives, because I don't know if I meant to be a wife at all. She fed me some tea and chocolate and said, Laura, it's time to go home and burn your doll. Jenna squinted as she searched the young stranger's face for hints of scarring. But from a distance, she could only see the skin her mother hid beneath her makeup, the sick skin of a woman who hadn't slept in years. Why? Same reason you burn incense. Same reason you light a candle. So she could change into a form that could carry all those bad feelings for me. And believe me, I've given her a lot to carry. Anger, worry, sadness, disappointment, resentment, my God. Jenna's mother sighed. She lets me take good care of you and your father. That's the most important thing. How pitiful for the young stranger to carry another woman's burden. No wonder, Jenna thought, that the young stranger didn't love her. Can Dad see her? Her mother shrugged. He's never mentioned her, but she tends to stay away from him. I don't think she likes him much. She nodded toward Sweater Vest, who was laughing nervously amid his louder friends. He's going to be under a lot of stress during residency. He's going to need you to be your best self. Jenna felt a piece of her elaborate updo slip. The hand that wasn't holding her bouquet looked for something to adjust on the back of her head, but her mother's fingers beat her there. Which means, her mother said, pushing one of Jenna's golden bobby pins deeper and tighter against Jenna's scalp, that it's probably time for you to set your worry dolly on fire. After Mila finished her crayon drawing, she brought it into the kitchen and presented it like an offering to her mother, who was cutting vegetables for dinner. Oh, sweetheart, it's beautiful, her mother said, making Mila giggle with pride. Is that us? That's me, Mila said, pointing to the smallest stick figure with spiky pigtails and a polka dot skirt. And that's you. She pointed to a larger stick figure with a checkered skirt and a comically large smile. I'm glad I'm so happy, Mila's mother said, squeezing Mila close. And that's Daddy. Mila pointed to another large stick figure, this one flat-mouthed and wearing a red sweater vest and a snake-like stethoscope around his neck, because that's what Grandpa always calls him. That's right, Mila's mother said. Who's that? She was pointing at the third large stick figure, ensconced in a dark cloud and floating, apparently, above the rest of the family. Its eyes were red and bleeding tears. Mila's voice dropped. That's sad, Mommy. Does sad Mommy make you sad? Mila nodded, but was it really sadness she felt or something else? Was it the feeling she had when she saw a squirrel dead on the side of the road? Or was it closer to that speedy heart feeling she got when the neighbor's St. Bernard stormed the fence and barked at her? For a moment, Mila's mother was quiet, stroking Mila's hair. Then she stuck the drawing on the fridge, putting a big "Welcome to Ashland" magnet on top of Sad Mommy, because Sad Mommy made her sad too, and turned back to Mila with her famous broad smile. I have an idea, she said, extending her cool hand. You want to go pick out a new doll? And that's it.
Wow, that was creepy.
Thanks.
Oh, that was
So
Based on lots and lots of creepy pastas that I have read about mothers.
yeah, I could see that, but just the extreme compartmentalization and the ways of doing all the emotional labor for an entire family.
Yep.
There's some definite real life resonance there too. That's yeah. One to study in the sociology classes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whew.
I grew up in the Midwest, so I don't think that's specific to the Midwest, but
No, but I could see that. I could really see that. Have your worry Dolly teach you to make some hot dish.
yeah, exactly.
That was amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Nadia.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to read.
Absolutely. It is our pleasure. Between the two readers, we like to just take a breath. As you notice, I tend to lose mine with the readings anyway. And now we are ready for another. Our next reader is Cassandra Khaw. Cassandra Khaw is an award-winning game writer, former scriptwriter at Ubisoft. Is it Ubisoft or Ubisoft? I've never known. I should have asked
I
before.
don't think any of us know either.
Okay. At Ubisoft Montreal, Khaw's work can be found in places like fantasy and science fiction, Lightspeed, and Tor.com. Khaw's first original novella, Hammers on Bone, was a British Fantasy Award and Locus Award finalist, and their novella Nothing But Black and Teeth is published by Nightfire. And you also have a newish short story collection as well.
I do. Break Holdings.
Yes.
It came out November last year.
You were sneaky and didn't put it in your bio, but I wanted everybody to know that you have that out. We have two exceedingly modest people here, Daniel. Luckily, I don't have that problem. So happy to talk that up. Yeah. So I understand that you have something for us that is, for once, not terrifying.
I do. I think so. This is probably the fluffiest, happiest thing I've ever written in my life.
Now that's range.
I don't know if it actually will register as happy and fluffy, but we will see.
All right, well, let's have it. And if anyone happy and fluffy stumbles through, just pet them.
So I'm going to preface this with I'm actually in the middle of a terrible cold, so if I randomly stop, mute myself, it's because I'm trying to cough and not cough into everyone's ears. But the title of the story is What We Have Chosen to Love. Also, apologies for being completely nasal. I cannot breathe out my nose right now.
Thank you for reading for us anyway.
I didn't want to miss my second opportunity, not the last time. Caleb likes it least when you're desperate, but he can prescribe no fault to the situation. After all, he does not make it easy. Sunlight gowns the modest dining table in gold, a honeyed richness sanding away the imperfections in his homemade furnishings. Carefully, Caleb tips boiling water into a kettle, its circumference barnacled with clumps of quartz, no shine to them, just a pale milkiness. Caleb has never had an interest in impressing. How do you have a sponge cake today, I'm afraid? His voice is an easy baritone, a voice that might have made him some money as a minstrel, but not much. You should have come yesterday. When the witches made their appearance, I made him a mascarpone cheesecake. The herald nods. He is warier than his steed, a roan gelding made threadbare by the journey. The two of them are ribs and parched throats and a memory of the woods, winter wetted and spindled with frost, and they are so cold, these two, cold to the non-true pith of them. Cold enough that the herald will say anything, do anything, so long as Caleb continues to let him thaw by the fire, a plum blue plate of biscuits to one side, a mug of mulled cider to the other. Your only hope, the herald says without feeling, only the cadence of ritual. Without you, the kingdom will be lost. Caleb shrugs. There's always another chosen one. There are as many chosen ones as there are prophecies. The apples of the herald's cheeks are still red as raw meat. You really won't come to our rescue then? No, I see. But you can have some cake, Caleb announces decisively. And if you like, information how to contact some people who I think can help. Caleb always knew he was special. Caleb has never been able to escape the fact he is special. When he was 4, a knight in wrestling armor and blood-splattered tabard came to the door of the house his father built, and he had knelt there until Caleb's mother bade him to come inside. There is a war, the knight had whispered, gauntleted hands so tight around his mug of tea that cracks spiderweb through the shining ceramic. A war that has been going on for 1,000 years. And your son is the only one who can stop it. No, said Caleb's mother. And the last light of the failing day was wine gold in her hair and white gold on the scars of the knight's pale face. I will not let him be taken by prophecy. I know how long those children live, a year and a day if they're lucky, to their wedding day if they're not. They don't grow old, they grow dead. Please, whispered the knight. And Caleb would always remember the sound of his voice like dust, like the motion of stars, like an old house coming apart, like a kingdom falling to its knees. No, said Caleb's mother, but I can give you the names of people who can help. Diplomats, doctors, poets, peacekeepers, economics professors, farmers who can coax the cracked earth to bloom. I can give you the names of people who might make right what is broken in your kingdom. And you can have cake before you go. It is a child this time. Please. Caleb pulls his robes tight around a chest made broad by a season of hard labor. And behind him he can hear the blacksmith's daughter, his beloved Enora, unsheath her longsword. Of the two of them, she bakes better bread. The house smells warmly still of honey bread and lemon polenta cake, roasted almonds, and strong black tea. It's the princess. Her mouth and her fingertips are blue as bruises, and when she speaks, her lips bleat and welts. Frost lattices the child's long black lashes, dusts her filling coat in diamonds. She won't wake up. She needs to wake up. The spell wasn't enough. She's going to die when the roses. Please, please. She's still whispering please when Caleb and Nora steer her inside, still whispering as they put food in her hands, blankets over shoulders, so thin the two can count every crack in the bones, whispering like she's a clock, and the word please is how she marks the minutes. Please, the child begs. The prophecies say that you will be true love's kiss. Wait, Caleb has never asked, but he does so now. What prophecies? It was foreseen in the entrails of a white stag, divined by 2 blind sisters, gibbered by the face tattooed over the heart of a dead king's corpse. It must have been foretold somewhere. The child is certain. Caleb and Nora exchange looks, and he rises to warm what bourguignon remains from dinner, while his love interrogates their guest, whose chin is already slumped onto her chest. Do you know for sure that it was true love's kiss that your princess needs? The child hesitates. There is blood and brambles on her stocking feet. It is what is customary. What happens after that? Does she marry him? Nora shucks her weapon, sheaths it in an umbrella stand. Caleb's love then makes their guest a bed of cushions on a meager couch, the corners tasseled and heavy with hagstones. Over the girl she drapes the bearskin that the boy prince had gifted them, black and lustrous as grief, and Nora's voice a drowsing alto throughout, softly gable with a highland brogue. Yes, the child's head bobs with every syllable, eyes flitting. She must. That is the price. I see. Like every daughter born to a blacksmith, Nora is strong, muscles like ley lines across the map of her body, arms tattooed with icons of the burning god. Every weapon she'd ever made frescoed on her skin. So you know, even if you couldn't tell from the thickness of her arms and the scarring on her fingers, that she belongs to the forge and the fire. Her fingers brush the girl's brow in annoyment. Kill him? Beloved. He hears the worry in her voice, and although it opens an ache in him, Caleb nods, setting down a bowl heaping with comforts, brisket and potatoes and carrots and caramelized onions, a touch of fine red wine and fresh thyme in the stock. Be safe, be wise, be careful, be all the things that I know you are. I'll send a raven when I'm on the way home. They had begged her, every holy order to hear of the blacksmith's daughter who lived alone with the man who would not be king. They had plied her with redemption, the decadence of immortality. 10 years, 20, no more than that. That is all they want. In return, the gods will indulge her everything, or they serve them as Templar, as champion, as avatar, please. And Enora said, no, I love you. I love you too. A smile parts her lips, and the candlelight makes honey and gold of her ash-brown hair. Now to bed with you, my little one, but not before you eat. You're nothing but bird bones. But the princess, she can wait until you have slept. 1 year before Caleb was 17, he murdered his mother's potatoes. And somehow that same unfortunate summer mistook locusts for ladybirds. That winter there was no jam, no pots of savory marmalade, no preserved fruits or pickled garlic to infuse in their cakes or stews. They ate leanly, dried meats and hard cheeses, crisp breads with shavings of goat's butter, which would have been flavored with leeks or thyme had Caleb not made a slaughterhouse of the crops. Until Caleb learned that while no garden will love him, the forest would at least tolerate a friendship. He found sugar kelp by frost-wefted shore, whitening in its waters, yellowfoot chanterelles blooming in the roots of a scrawny black birch. These Caleb gathered to make a broth, letting them steep with 5 spice and star anise before he adds venison from his father's hunt. The stew was thin, but Caleb's family devoured it like a blessing. The next day, he unearthed a harvest of sunchokes, which he filleted and fried with duck fat saved from his mother's birthday. The evening after that, Caleb brought him burdock and juniper berries, rose hips red as love's mouth, and a bottle of dark honey that tasted dizzily of molasses and wood smoke, wine and winter's end. There will come a time when this knowledge is more important than any other you learn, Caleb's mother declared, as she stirred eggs and powdered sugar with that glossy, brilliant honey. To know how to make a feast of nothing, to stop the world while you stand in your kitchen, a ladle in your hand and a pot on the stove, a cake rising in the oven. To be able to quiet the universe with a promise. There is no better magic. Caleb, still young, replied, but what about pyromancy? His mother laughed, and Caleb would always remember that sound. How resonant it was, how rich, the abandon with which she could fought, and how she'd stroke her tongue across his brow, her skin smelling of cinnamon and golden in the cold light. Now, this is a better magic than that. You'll understand one day. She comes back in armor blackened by dragon fire. An armor belted with teeth marks, and stippled with thorns, and new scars, a half moon of meat gouged from her left cheek. But she comes back, and she comes back victorious. The princess lies strapped at Nora's back, hair limp and long, less royalty than bedraggled kelpie, wrung of fight, wrung of anything but that dim instinct to exist. When her head lolls upwards, it is all Caleb can do to not cry out. The rungs of her throat, the spokes of her shoulders, the fashion in which her eyes rest sunken in her face. 1 second. Ugh. In which her eyes were sunken and face so gaunt, it is only scaffolding and a spider in cartilage. Something had eaten her down to her last shivering breath. The roses did this, Anora's voice, flat. The world outside is blue with dusk, heavy with fog, gold and wine bruised where it isn't gray. Someone erred in their creation. The roses needed sustenance, some way to maintain their own immortality, so they found the princess. Where is she? Who? Says Caleb, freeing his beloved from her salad. Beneath the iron-dented, scuffed, ill-shape, Enora's hair is matted to her skull, salt-clotted and clumped with dried blood. The latter is unmistakably a product of injury. But Caleb cannot bring himself to ask her questions yet. Roll those answers in the cup of his palm, not when he has to spend weeks without her, sick to the teeth with the certainty that Enora was dead or bartered to divinity somewhere. The girl. Even now, the princess is a tangle of every lesson she was taught. And Caleb can see as much an imperious tilt of a head that can scarcely hold its weight, a darting of a pale, dry tongue that does nothing to moisten cracked lip. She was my only friend. She said she would help a girl, said Enora. As Caleb removes her pauldrons and vambraces, careful to robe each piece in oilskin and put them away by turn. He notes what requires repairs, what has broken, with hair black as grief, sugar brown eyes, bramble and blood on her feet. Here, the princess's voice fractures. Like a spindle of ice splitting beneath a child, she runs and she runs, alone in the woods, alone in the winter, breath curling white through the air, hounded and haunted by the wolves of a role she was too young to suffer. Caleb touches a hand to Nora's cheek and she shudders like a winded warhorse. It wasn't her fault, Caleb tells her. You don't know that. You could have sent the girl out. She could have sent the girl out. And Nora clenches a mailed fist while the princess stares on. And she might not have. Caleb. Her name was Emilia, and mine is Irina, and I will thank you to use them when you address us. That demand skins her of everything she has left, and finally, the princess deigns to collapse, cheek smushed into Nora's shoulder blade, though swaddled like an infant. We're not going to get anywhere shouting at each other in the doorway, said Caleb. And Nora only scowls. I'll put the kettle on. Callum has only seen his mother angry once, which was not to say that she did not become irate without color and vexation, cheeks blotching red, or raise her voice when Caleb eroded her patience. But there is no other instance in his recollection, no other frame of memory through which he might look through and say, yes, his mother has been angry here as well. The texture of her rage surprised him then, astonishes even now. When he thinks to examine the memory, it was a righteous thing. Bright burning, molten, the rage of someone had seen a nation bend its knee to her command. But the object of her fury, that was what astonished Caleb even more. It had been an old man. Caleb would have said it was another king had there been anything regal about him. But he was only old, only very tired. Please, said the man, I told you to leave me be. His mother stood at her stoop, rolling pin in hand, flaw like war paint daubed along her cheekbones. When she spoke, it wasn't a volume of thundering emotion. Her voice was cold as late frost. How many times must I repeat myself? Please, said the man again. Leave me be. And his mother would have closed the door on the man forever had not Caleb spoken up, voice wavering, something like recognition in his voice. I know you. The man laughed, a wounded noise, as Caleb's mother glared. Although Caleb dwarfed her now 6 feet to her 5, he shrank from the fury smoking in her gaze. How you have grown, child. I remember when your mother brought you to the palace and you found your way to the barracks, how they loved you, their little enough. This time, Caleb's mother roared, but the man would not concede the smile, or the look he now wore like the spoils of a war, one of the 1,000 years of burning bodies. Caleb was halfway to his feet before he realized what had transpired. Grandfather, he said, it's been a while. For the first week, the Princess Irina will eat nothing but the leanest of vegetable broths. Anything else, any endeavor to thicken the stock with aromatics of flavor and with salt to add protein only results in vomit. For the first week, she does nothing but ask for Emilia, half delirious for the rigors of recovery, but still demanding nonetheless. What happened to the girl? Caleb asked one night, wary of Irina's hysterics. Enora shakes her head. The repeated ritual thrice again before at last Caleb's beloved of the gods, the blacksmith's daughter with eyes the color and gleam of a blackbird's wing, moves to speak privately to the princess. Caleb absents himself during their talk. He bakes 8 tarts instead, uses too much butter in one batch, too little in the next, redeems himself in the third attempt. Halfway through his work, Nora emerges and holds her arms out to him. He embraces her and tries, with no success, to ignore the sobbing that shudders from behind Irina's door. Caleb is told a story. His mother had been fated to serve as a fulcrum of mythological narrative. Had she been born male, destiny might have decreed her chosen one, a savior, a shining light in one of the many apocalypses that cycled through the world like the passing of seasons. But she was not, and the world held only limited places for princesses, on a throne beside a king, on a bed of briars, under glass, young perpetually, waiting forever to be redeemed by the mouth of a man. They are meant to be brides. The question is if they are wedded to men or tragedy, although by her estimate, there was often no difference between the two. For her, the soothsayers had envisioned a death by the sea. If she was lucky, the divinity might marry her instead, make her mother to monsters. But she would not have that fate. To her parents' dismay, she instead chose to marry a tradesman from the town. She courted and wedded, of all the men in the rolling green kingdom, the local lettercrafter, an orphan, grossly untalented in the kitchen, his nose shriveled by years of braving tannins. But he had a voice like an angel had broken its heart, and he could make her laugh like no other. And most importantly, he knew how to work hard. For a dowry, the lettercrafter slaved 3 bitter years to turn the carcass of a dragon. The beast itself was slain by his brother mercenary of reasonable repute and uncustomary charity, into armor for an army. And grudgingly, the king and queen gave their blessings. So Caleb's mother and the lettercrafter married by the rosy dawn of an autumn day. With only their families in attendance, one sat in velvet and the other in sturdy brown hemp. By dusk, when the lardas had been plundered for black wines and golden ciders, there was no difference between the two. Gradually, very gradually, Irina's diet broadened. Caleb introduces porridge with dram of whiskey, peppermint tea cut with honey, shortbread and saltines, and sweet potatoes roasted in their skin. He brings a silken tofu with oyster sauce, garlic in growing increments, nothing that mandates effort. What happened to you? He sets a bowl of soup down on the low table in front of the princess. It's a story as old as time, she says. A kingdom, a father, the specter of a dead wife in the margins of his memory, and her daughter, who he loved more than the summer sun itself. When civil war broke loose, the king chose to do all he could to protect what he loved. She stirs a wooden spoon through the soup. So he ordered his men to murder their brethren, Enora intones, glaring Irina over her tea. Irina shrugs. Yes. What else do kings do in this situation? They rally armies, dress them in gilt and shining metal, hoping to God that a posturing will be enough. My father wasn't a bad ruler, but the country's memory stretches across centuries. His predecessors were known for cruelty. Enora crosses her leg, ankle over knee. He could have stepped down. He could have. Irina sips her first mouthful of soup, blanches. A hand flies to her lips, and after a labored moment, she swallows. But that asks for more wisdom than my poor father could have offered. Power is not easily surrendered, especially not by men. Her answer wins a chuckle from Enora. Your father's issues aside, said Callum, how did the whole debacle with the roses happen? Desperation, says Irina. You'll be amazed how willing a man is to bargain with dark forces when he has his back against the wall. At some point during the chaos, he was struck a mortal blow. In his panic, he turned then to one of his soothsayers, who everyone knows to have a relationship with the gods of earth. I was entrusted to him. Another shrug again. It was a bad idea. The soothsayer was a mole then, an agent for the other side, Caleb asked, refilling both his mug and Enora's with hot tea. No, worse, he was inept. He thought that he would be able to deter our adversaries by summoning a rose wall around the castle. Romantic idea. But such things are never without their price. The roses grew tall, and they grew hungry. They devoured many, many men from the other side. When the other army retreated, the roses turned on us. It didn't take long for my father soothsayer to realize what he had done. Hoping he would save me, he put me into eternal sleep, one to be broken by love's kiss, and, well, that did not work the way he wanted. The roses, starving, were quick to find the one thing in the castle pulsing with an unimaginable amount of magic. Horror ripples slow and cold down Caleb's spine. You, defend on you. Yes, said Irina. But I kept them away from the rest of my people. I'm grateful for that, at least. Very grateful. I was responsible for my kingdom. As their only heir, I am responsible for all of it. It is my privilege to. Her voice ceases on the last syllable, lingers there like a woman staring over the ledge. And Caleb can see where she falls, where she has fallen, where she is still falling, plummeting eternally into a nightmare of roots and thorns. It was my privilege to suffer for them. But I think it is my responsibility to live for them too, don't you agree? Not as another symbol, mind. As someone worthy of their respect. Better yet, someone useful. And what if they don't want another ruler? Enora's smoky alto is even keeled, but the challenge is unmistakable. Then I hope they will still consider letting me serve them. If nothing else, I am an excellent accountant. She mimes coquetry in the denouement, a hand touched slightly to her cheek. An invitation in long lashed eyes. It startles a laugh from Enora. Then Caleb. Then finally Irina, who laughs like someone relearning what it is like to be warm. What it could be like to be happy, finally. Irina stays with them for another year. Then one more. Doing hard labor in the earth beside Enora and Caleb both. She learns to cook. She meets with those that the two bring to her. Her kingdom, torn choked still, lies on the shoulder of a distant mountain, forgotten, saved by the few villages that survived the conflict. Enora on her travels returns with stories of how they have grown potatoes there. A trio of tradesmen tells Caleb about the sugar beets, the parsnips, radishes. Nothing impressive, no giant examples of the species. But the soil is still starved by roses. And as with more years than Irina imagined, the princess does not ask how many. Instead, she asks, do the roses still grow? No, says the tradesmen who meet her. They sleep. So it is finally then that Irina asks not to stay, but be taken to the town by the belly of the mountain, where a university is being built. She asks for introductions to everyone that Caleb knows, to the leather workers and the farriers and the burly, soft-voiced men whom Nora calls colleagues. She asks to work, to learn, to join the caravans on their winding excursions, all to rebuild what her country has lost. It is not much, but it is a start. And soon she is, like the others who have come to Caleb's door, gone. When Enora and Caleb finally marry, their wedding small but radiant with half-familiar faces, women and men in rich garb and humble expressions. Irina returns, alone, without retinue, nearly unrecognizable but happy. She brings them cake like everyone else, marzipan and lemon drizzle, with summer fruits layered between. A petitioner makes himself known during the ceremony, a boy already slumping from his bone-thin mount, and Irina leads him away. Please, says the new arrival. He's the only one who can help. Yes, said Irina, but not in the way you think. And first, sit down and have some damn cake. And that's it. I kind of shortened it a little bit clumsily in the middle because my throat is all acting up. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. You are so valiant to read for us despite it.
Seriously.
But I enjoyed the story very much. It really did end with cake.
It did end with cake.
It is actually the gentlest, nicest thing I've ever written.
That's
Yeah.
that's really beautiful.
There's still a sharp edge to it, but you
In
need a
those
sharp edge.
margins?
To
No.
cut marzipan properly, you need a very sharp edge, right? So, what a night, Daniel. I have enjoyed both of these stories so much. Thank you both so much for reading for us tonight. And Cassandra, I hope that you can get a nice cup of peppermint tea laced with honey, and that those beautiful cats will snuggle you to make you
I
feel.
actually do have peppermint tea with honey, and I am going to drown myself in it after this.
Oh, good.
Good. I hope that you don't suffer any ill effects from giving us that beautiful story. This has been a wonderful night. Thank you both so much. Next week is also going to be wonderful. Next week we have P.L. Watts and Oganechawe Donald Apeki. And I do recommend checking storyhour2020.com for any potential changes the day of. Hardly ever happens. And just to see who might be reading next. If you'd like to see who's read before or listen to this one a few more times, go ahead and check the Story Hour page on Facebook, where you can see about 3 years worth of stories. It's a lot of stories. This has been a wonderful evening. Thank you to both of our readers. Thank you to my marvelous co-host, Daniel Marcus. And to all of you who are here tonight in the Zoom, on Facebook, all of you watching sometime in the future, thank you for joining us and making this story hour together. Good night.